Hello, everybody. It's Brother Shane McCann up here at Oasis Ministries, and good to be back with you. Talk a little tonight about some of the miracles that Jesus done. Going to start out with the first one, and we'll go on to a couple of them. Got interested in it, got to reading about it. Got one of my old books out of my closet, and I was studying some of it. But anyway, I got to think about some of the miracles he done, and one of the things that fascinated me about it was a preacher was talking about that Jesus' arm was no longer, than a normal arm, 20 centimeters, but he done so many miracles through his arm and through his hand. So, we'll kind of title his message now, the Master's hand. But anyway, one of the first miracles that Jesus done was turning the water into wine, and I was always wondering, why did he do that? And I got to studying a little bit on it. But, back then, when they had these wedding celebrations, sometimes they would make preparations, for a whole week because it was going to be a main event. And they had invited so many people to come to this wedding, and Jesus even, came to this wedding. And, his mom was there, and they had guests there, like a best man, so to speak. And he would be the one, that would taste the wine and stuff. And anyway, they come to Jesus and say, we got a major problem. We're out of wine. And Jesus tells his disciples, his mama tells the disciples, whatever Jesus tells you to do, go do it, Anyway, he tells them, to fill these water pots up with water. In other words, they just couldn't get water immediately. They either had to go to a well, they had to go to a nearby spring or somewhere to get water in these jugs. They just wasn't no running water back then in somebody's house. So they had to take a step of faith themselves and take these watering pots and go to the nearby spring or well. You dip water out the well and fill these pots up. But when they brought them back, Jesus tells them, to put their dipper in there, and they give it to the wedding person that was going to be the best man at the wedding or whatever. In tradition, they would always serve the best wine, and then they would bring out the poorest wine or the best wine. But anyway, when they reached the thing in there to get the wine, it was the best wine. And the man couldn't understand, because they were supposed to start off with the poorest wine, and then later on, as they narrowed it on down, they would bring out the better wine. But he said, this is the best wine I've ever tasted, and they're giving us the best wine now. And it was one of the first miracles that Jesus done. And if you look in the Old Testament, where God gives Moses the ability to turn the Nile River into blood, he turns water into blood, which represented death and destruction because you couldn't have no fish or anything like that. But here, when Jesus turns the water into wine, it ain't that he was going to, give them a wine with a big high content of alcohol in it, let them all get drunk and have a big party. It wasn't nothing like that. Or if it was fermented, unfermented, really don't know. But what it was to bring happiness and gladness to the wedding party. You see, that's why Jesus done the miracle, because he wanted everybody to be happy, he wanted everybody to be glad. And that's how Jesus is today. When he does miracles and stuff, it is of us to be of good cheer, to be happy, to be glad. Sin, it produces death and destruction when people live in rebellion, when God has to pronounce judgment. Then, death and destruction come. When Moses turned the water into blood, God was pronouncing judgment upon the Egyptians because of all the gods that they worship, one of them being Ra. But anyway, that was one of the greatest miracles that Jesus done, and today he's still doing miracles, to bring happiness and gladness to people. I just found that so interesting. And as I progressed on through there, studying about this, we come to the where Jesus is having a meeting in a house. And it said there's no room for anybody else to fit in the house. I don't know how big his house is, but he's in there. He's healing. He's delivering. He's setting people free. And these people are wanting to bring their friend to this meeting, but there's no way to get him in the door, the front door, the back door. They can't get him in. I mean, it's just packed plumb full, of people. Anyway, they know that Jesus is in there in the center somewhere, and they think, how can we get our friend in there? Their friend is paralyzed. He's on a cot, and don't know how long he's been in that shape. But they're thinking, if we can just get him to Jesus, he can be healed. It wasn't so much that the man on the cot had any faith. He may not have any faith at all, but the men that were going to carry him to Jesus was the ones that had the faith. So they find a way to get up on top of the house. And back then they had these houses, and sometimes it would be layers of cane or layers of grass, and then under them would be some kind of brick or some kind of mud mixed with mortar and things like that. And they're thinking, well, if we can get him up on the backside of the house, and sometimes the roofs of the house would come off level to the ground back in that day, so they would just come in on the backside of the house and go right up on the roof. And anyway, when they got up there, they get him up on the roof, and they're thinking, well, how can we get him Jesus? So they literally tear the roof off. They tear grass, they tear brick, they tear mortar, plaster, whatever, to get this man in this cot down to Jesus. And when Jesus looks up and sees their faith, he's amazed, that they're willing to tear the roof off to get him to there. I got to reading about that and got to thinking about that, and how many times do we come to church with all these empty seats, left where we could have brought with us? How many people are we bringing to Jesus? The Bible really doesn't mention them 4 people's name that carried that cot. Don't even really mention the guy's name that was on the cot. But these 4 people will go down in some kind of book of a hall of faith because they had so much faith to bring their friend to Jesus, this paralytic, knowing that he could be healed if they could get him to Jesus. But anyway, they lower him down, to where Jesus is. And, he says, son, be of good cheer, take up thy bed and walk. Rise, take up thy bed and walk. Jesus done this marvelous miracle, Even though his arm was just no longer than mine and just a regular hand like mine, but doing all these great healings and all these great miracles. Okay, as we progress, as I begin to read in the stories, we go to the demoniac in Gardenia. Now here, this man, he's so tormented by demon spirits that he literally has to move from place to place to place. He's like a vagabond, like a homeless person. But these demons have got him so tormented that he has to literally move into a cemetery. I go down here and do a homeless ministry down here at the park. And some of the people tell me down there at the park, the meth addicts tell me that they literally live in the cemetery up on Fort Hill Cemetery down there in Cleveland, Tennessee, behind the boys club. And, this demoniac in Gardenia, he was actually living in a cemetery. Now, Jesus knowed it. And Jesus says, I'm going to do this great miracle for this guy. So he takes his disciples, loads them up in a boat, and they go through one of the worst storms of their life to get to this man. Because Jesus knows that this man's in torment over there, crying out night and day, cutting himself night and day, needing deliverance. So Jesus is willing to risk all the lives of his disciples to get to this one man, So anyway, they go through this horrible storm and they go over there. And, the demoniac in Gardenia, first of all, the demons inside the man that's tormenting a man is an enemy, to Jesus. Because, Jesus wants to go over there and be his friend, but Jesus can't be his friend until he gets rid of the enemy that's inside the man. Because the first thing that the demoniac does, he runs to Jesus when Jesus approaches land. The disciples stay in the boat. They're scared to get out of the boat. But when Jesus gets out of the boat, it says, what do we have to do with thee, Jesus, Most High Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before our time? Leave us alone. In other words, the demons that tormented, the man didn't want Jesus to leave him alone, but the demons that were inside of him wanted Jesus to leave him alone and go another way. When people, they're so tormented today, that's why they don't come to God. Because the demons inside of them say, Jesus, stay away, God, stay away, leave us alone, But if you could ever bring your demons, your evil to Jesus, even though you may seem like an enemy to Jesus and Jesus may seem like an enemy to you, but he wants to be your friend. He wants he wants to get rid of that's tormenting inside of you. But anyway, Jesus just asks a simple name, what is thy name, and he says Legion, for we're many, and he just says go, In this case, first miracle, water in the wine. Second, another miracle, son, take up thy bed and walk. With this miracle, he just says go, just a simple word, go. And, all them, that legion of demons, or if it's 2,000, 6,000, go out of this man. And this man is clothed and in his right mind, sitting at the feet of Jesus. And all these people in Gardenia, they know this man's moved into the cemetery. And they know they've tried to bind this man with chains, and he would break these chains. And they couldn't nobody bind him or tame him. And anyway, they see this man clothed in his feet, and they begged Jesus. They said, you need to just depart out of this country. They're scared. They take the demonic of Gardenia with you, load him up in the boat, you and the disciples, and y'all just go. We've never seen nothing like this happen around here. And the man begs Jesus, let me go with you, Lord. And the Lord says, no, But you go and you be an evangelist, and you go and you tell all the compassion that the Lord had upon you. So Jesus makes this demoniac in Gardenia an evangelist, And I find out, just so many great miracles that the Lord done, and that's just 3 of them. But anyway, I'm gonna stop right there. We'll continue this as we progress into it week after week. But hey, God bless you. And if you need a miracle in your life, just remember that God's hand is not short, that He cannot save, heal, or deliver. You just have to come to Him as you are. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what kind of shape or what kind of condition, or what kind of torment you're in. He says, come unto me, all that are heavy laden and burdened down, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke up on you, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light, and you'll find rest unto your souls. Well, hey, so Brother Shane McCann, I invite you to come to Oasis Ministries sometime. Well, God bless you. We'll see you next week.